This is episode 22 of the Fitness Plus Technology Podcast, live from IHRSA with Kaylin Pino from Virtuagym and technology consultant Geoffrey Little.
As you guys know, and we know as well, technology isn't about being able to solve that problem today. It's a long-term investment, and being able to keep up with the Joneses on this and making sure that your system is going to be top-notch, not just today, but tomorrow, the next year, and ongoing.
I think in the youth market, I'd see it as almost completely separate from the health club market. Health clubs could probably benefit and do benefit. Obviously, they have children as younger people as members. But the youth market that's really booming and getting the investment money now is sports performance.
Welcome to the Fitness Plus Technology Podcast for club owners, operators, and fitness professionals. I am your host, Josh Trent, and this is your number one trusted resource for the accelerating world of fitness technology. Each week, we bring you an expert interview with a global influencer at the crossroads of fitness and technology. You'll gain the insights, tools, and inspiration you need to stay connected to the pulse of what matters most for your fitness business in the age of exponential technologies. This podcast is brought to you by support from our outstanding sponsors. Brian O'Rourke and his family of companies, including Videre Ventures, Integris Advisors, Moon Mission Media, and many more. If you're looking for unmatched guidance, capital, insights, or a great speaker or facilitator, Brian and his partners are the go-to resource for your organization. To learn more, visit brianko'rourke.com. We'd also like to thank the Fitness Industry Technology Council, your nonprofit resource for reliable technology information, supported by forward-looking brands who are seeking to drive increased technology adoption in the fitness industry. Make a difference and join at fittechcouncil.org today. On the second half of our featured series, live from IHRSA 2017, we're learning from two fitness technology professionals in different parts of our industry spectrum. In this doubleheader episode, recorded live after the FitC Roundtable session, we're exploring related topics around technology that makes a direct impact to your fitness business. First up is Geoffrey Little, president of GSL Consulting, who worked with MINDBODY for over 11 years and is now a consultant to both vendors and operators in our space. Geoffrey's talking to us about the fast-growing segments in both group and boutique fitness operations, specifically the opportunities for monetization and service in the youth market and in sports performance. In our second half of the show, we're understanding the real needs of members so that clubs can use customized software solutions to help fitness facilities maximize the use of apps and mobile, both in new member integration and providing unforgettable member experiences. In servicing over 4,000 facilities, Kaylin Pino, the U.S. sales manager of Virtuagym, unpacks the common approaches, best practices, and experience from thousands of conversations with club owners and operators about what's really working from a technology perspective and how to create the right ecosystem that incorporates both benefit for the club while taking into account the functionalities that the member actually wants. Be sure to stick around for the second half of the show to hear from Kaylin, and now enjoy this episode. First up with our guest and technology consultant, Geoffrey Little. I am here with Geoffrey Little. He worked at MINDBODY for 11 years from the early days through the 2015 IPO. He's now a consultant to both vendors and operators in the fitness, wellness, and the education sectors for clients such as Virtuagym, who are exhibiting here at IHRSA. Prior to MINDBODY, he worked in television, documentary, and media, covering nature, science, and technology, working with Time Magazine, National Geographic, IMAX, and Public TV. Geoffrey, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you, Josh.
Before we get into your story, I want to ask you about your history with Time and everything you did in media production. But what did you feel about the meeting that we had here at the Roundtable? What came up for you that was really an impact to the work you're doing with Virtuagym?
In the session we were just in talking about, I've been waiting a decade for this. I've been waiting for some of the giants to come in. And the business is going to continue to grow, both the studio and boutique, I believe. And now it's picked up the attention of Google and others of the big players. So they are going to make the ground shake. I love technology, and I'm an early adopter. I was one of those kids who watched every space launch, went to Florida to watch them. So as a tech kid, a kind of a geek, I gravitated towards that in television production and journalism. And then when I had the opportunity to take a role in the fitness company in MINDBODY very early, I saw it as this is something that's this is a wave. So back in 2005, MINDBODY was one of the first companies to be web-based. It wasn't even called SaaS at the time.
Yeah.
But we rolled out the web-based product and to all these fitness owners. And the early adopters really excited about something where they could have a small studio or a mid-sized gym and compete with the big guys. They could outmarket them. They could out-engage with the clientele. They could offer these cool ideas, like at the time, very unusual to book online, book your yoga class.
Yeah, you're going way back, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And, your road leading up to this, like I said, you were in media for a long time. How do you think that makes what you do now with Virtuagym so much more beneficial? Looking back, what did you pull from your media experience that helps you with Virtuagym now?
Really getting with people who understood technology. I'm not a technologist. I don't code. When you follow someone in media, I liken it to being a sports writer. That you love the game, you understand it, you write about it, you don't play it. And so I spent a lot of time with Sebastian Thrun, who invented the driverless car when he was at Stanford. Brilliant guy. And so I just like hanging with people who are so smart and so 10, 15 years ahead, and seeing them make a car drive by itself. It's amazing. And now they're on the streets.
NASDAQ valued MINDBODY, it's over $1 billion now. In those early days, what was that like? What was fun for you, and why do you think they had such tremendous growth?
Well, I love startups. And the early days are when you're a couple of guys and gals in the trenches. You don't have any money. You have a phone if you're lucky. You have a, card table kind of desk. And I think I was hire number 20 at MINDBODY. And when I left in 2015, we were at 1,400 employees. But the fun part was seeing go worldwide. That was my main role. I built up the international business for 5 years and opening offices in Sydney and London and Germany, and seeing the wellness revolution, the fitness revolution go global. The fitness fanatics, the gym members, are universally the same, whether they're in Shanghai. We had one MINDBODY client in Pakistan and Iran, watching the fitness business grow in Turkey to 400 yoga studios in Istanbul. Really exciting to see this global boom.
And one of the ways that Virtuagym is serving others, they're a Dutch company, right? Can you tell us a little bit about what Virtuagym does and why they're based there?
Sure. When I was running international sales for MINDBODY, we had an office in London and about 50 people on my sales and marketing team, a couple thousand clients throughout Europe. So we thought we were pretty hot stuff, right? Because we're, taking over here. And it was circa 2012, and my team kept running into this company called Virtuagym. We knew they were in Netherlands, but every prospect that we talked to was talking about them. And we sat in London saying, who are those guys? Who are those guys? Because they had started as an app company back in 2009 with just two people, two brothers, and an app, a fitness tracking app. So unlike all the other software companies out there, they started app and then built back into a membership program that they have.
What did that early app look like for people that now know it as a larger system that helps health clubs? But what's the early version of the app?
Well, it tracked your, in 2009, which is now, ancient history.
And technology years. Yeah.
You had 3D animated exercise coaches that would show you the exercises, that would also track your fitness, track your nutrition. So they understood that earlier than some of the now even major suppliers. What they've done since is, as I said, back it into a member management kind of software that they've built. There's no technology debt. So as a technology fan, that's something that really intrigued me. Where was I going to invest my time and what company? So when I left MINDBODY, it was the first call I made after I was able to. It was non-competitive. I said, I've been watching you grow up for the last few years, and I'm really interested in what you're doing. So it was just two brothers in Amsterdam. Now they've done kind of that MINDBODY thing that I saw, where you go from a few people, a dozen or two. They now have 100 and almost 150 employees and 4,000 users.
So there's a lot of health club owners that are listening, and they're probably thinking, okay, these two brothers are great coders and they made this great app, but what is it actually doing for the bottom line and the member experience in the club? In a few sentences, there's probably a lot you could talk about, but what are the high levels of that?
Well, there is, and I think you're going to speak with one of the Virtuagym team later, so you'll have some more detail for those owners. But what intrigues me is that it's an all-in-one system. It allows engagement with your personal training clientele off-site so that the trainer has this tool that gives him or her a multiplying force. And so you can train someone once a month, and we were talking about probably at a premium, and then you can actually have them go on the Virtuagym app and you can track them and help them and see their progress if you don't see them for a month. That means someone who maybe pays, $75 for a session can come once a month, but many of the gyms are actually charging for the app because it's a value add. Mm-hmm. So the app is actually paying for itself and for the software.
And this allows the trainer to serve more people, not be, having so many hours on their feet.
Yeah.
When you look at this boutique space and from your perspective and the studio space, what do you see really changing in the next 2 years? I hate to say 5 years because in 2 years, things are going to change a lot. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So in the next couple years, what's going to change in that studio landscape and that boutique landscape?
Well, first on the studio side, it seems like that 20-30% year-on-year growth is continuing. How long that continues? I mean, how long until you're completely built out with studios? And studios will come and go. They will cycle. Unlike a gym, you can close up a small studio or storefront boutique and not take that big a hit. It's not like closing, a 10,000 or 50,000 square foot gym. They can afford to feed the fat. But there seems to be room. As I look across the marketplace, I watch the beginning of spin. There are 3 major spin boutique chains now. And so there's room for 3. There's 1 or 2 in boxing. There's a 3rd one on the way. It's really interesting. So it's sort of the rule of 3. There are 3 in Pilates, or bar rather, that we all know. So that growth has fueled enough room for 3 major chains, all 100 plus locations. And it'll be interesting to see, will people still be doing a bar workout at one of those or their spin workout at one of those 2 years from now? Or will they have moved on to something else?
And I think what you're touching on is this youth market. That's some of the angles that you take with Virtuagym. You work in that youth market. What's one of the biggest trends that you're seeing up and coming there when it pertains to these users that have a short attention span?
I think in the youth market, I'd see it as almost completely separate from the health club market. Health clubs could probably benefit and do benefit. Obviously, they have children as younger people as members. But the youth market that's really booming and getting the investment money now is sports performance. And I'm sure this is obvious to most owners. But when you look at companies like Redline is going to come on strong. There are only 8 locations now, but they're gorgeous. Parents will spend an inordinate amount on their children to get them to train in the hopes that maybe that will help them get into a great college or maybe even get a scholarship or let alone go pro or just be a great athlete. So that opens up a whole new, not a marketplace, but a payer for it, to be in blunt terms. We're at a business conference, so we'll talk about, what percentage of their disposable income are they willing to, maybe only, 1% on their own gym or fitness, but huge amounts. And you can see that worldwide. Working with a company called Gymboree, the play and music centers. It was just bought by a Chinese billionaire who lives in Singapore. There are 360 Gymborees in mainland China. They will spend 20% of their disposable income on the child.
What do those figures look like for America? Do you know that off the top of your head?
No, but they're not anywhere near the 20%. But these Velocity Sports Performance, Exos, others, Parisi Speed School, many of the owners have a Parisi in them. They're able to take advantage of that. So whereas you might limit your gym membership to yourself to $50, $80 a month or $30, people will spend hundreds on a child per month. Some of the soccer shots, I9 Sports, low cost, no cost overhead for I9 Sports. It's just an organized game once a week. It's a really interesting growth area that I'm spending some time in.
And I can definitely tell with your expertise that there's so many ways that we could probably have another show just on that one subject of I-9 and things like that. However, for today, as a parting guidance piece for club owners and operators, what do you think is really top of mind for them as they go through their busy day? What do you think pieces of technology can actually add to not just freeing up their time, but also their bottom line?
There is this chase. We're talking about shiny objects. And I don't think you should, as a club owner, I advise some of my clients not to go after technology first. Just tell me what's your biggest problem to solve, and then find the technology that's fit and suited to that. Very often it's not, and you have the choice to build your own. That's a whole nother thing. But you can now find things off the shelf that your club can use tomorrow. One I mentioned in the session was Zapier. So if your IT person or your department should be looking at making apps function together holistically across and all the data. I'm interested in I'm learning here. Just heard Todd Durkin talk about Body Evolver, which is a data hub, as I understand it, with multiple input points. And so I'm going to find out more about them. I'd never heard of them before coming to IHRSA.
We'll link both of those things you talked about in the show notes because I hadn't heard of either of them. So thank you so much for saying that. Where can people learn more about your work and what you're up to for 2017?
Sure. Well, I'm here with Virtuagym. That's really my focus on the fitness side. I am also working with iClass Pro, which is in the children's and area. It's a hidden area of gymnastics, dance, and swim. But again, that parent as the driver spending huge amounts. I'm out there on geoffreylittle.com having a great time in fitness and at IHRSA.
Jeffrey, thanks so much for coming on the show.
My pleasure. Thank you, Josh.
I'm here with Kaylin Pino, the U.S. sales manager of Virtuagym. Thanks for coming on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Was there something you learned about in the meeting that really struck you, something you wanted to dig more into as we move into these next few months here in 2017?
Yeah, absolutely. So the big thing that jumped out at me was the conversation around Internet of Things. And so, yeah, we love hearing about that because naturally being a software provider within the space, we hear that from our clients, from their members. So I'm talking about a gym member here or an employee of a corporate wellness organization. They're saying that we want to be able to have you guys serve up all of this information from the technology that's being used by the members, the equipment manufacturers that we're using. We want all that into your platform. And so being able to just sit in a room with other tech providers and other gyms, who are relaying that information and trying to figure out what they want, the fact that the industry is coming together now and recognizing that they need to start doing that is incredible for us. Because I'm sure you know that if we were to rewind, just a year, 2 years ago, that wasn't the case. Everyone was basically looking at Internet of my thing and ignoring everybody else and closing off their gateways to everybody.
Why do you think that changes happen so quickly when you look at the whole space of Internet of Things and what your company is doing, which we'll dive into right now? Why do you think it's changed so rapidly? Has there been one piece of technology that's helped that the most?
I would say that it's a combination of two things. So number one is going to be the fact that the industry does a really good job of listening to the members. So they're hearing a lot of feedback from the people who are participating within group classes. A gym will get requests to their personal trainers saying that, have you heard about this app? It's all about the people. So the people hear these things in the facility. They incorporate it in their own way. And leaders are just simply seeing that nobody's coming into the facility anymore just with a piece of paper, a training pad, and writing things down in a notebook. But there's these apps that are going on within the space. They're wearing these little devices on their wrists that's tracking everything going on with their heart rate and their activity. And you can't ignore that. It's really cool to see what that looks like in a facility these days, and we're just glad to be a part of it.
Tell us about Virtuagym. I know your background was in startups, and contrast your background to what led you to actually work for this company. What is the issue that Virtuagym is solving for fitness?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, yeah, like you said, my background is in startups, and traditionally I focused on customer acquisition, where I would help a small company build a comprehensive sales and marketing strategy from the ground up.
Sounds easy.
Oh man, as you know, it is work, but that's what I love though, is that you get to have an opportunity to talk to these owners who are taking their models and trying to reshape them so that this way they can incorporate technology either to streamline things and make it more efficient, or to be able to find profits in that. So coming to what is it that makes Virtuagym special within the industry, I'd say that we're right there within the same space as our clients, which is we want to make sure that their members are happy. And so if you were to take a look at some other software solutions that are out there, they tend to be more focused on utility, which is how am I going to make sure that my members' data is stored securely, manage payments, make sure that everyone knows what's happening with classes. And we started as a consumer product. And so what that means is that we had to make sure that end users, members in most cases, employees in corporate wellness programs and others, they're finding value from the system that they're going to be using. And that's a huge shift. I think that, basically it's a difference between enterprise level technology and then, a consumer mindset. With enterprise tech, basically what's happening there is that if I'm working within Joe's Gym, I'm an employee there, I'm getting paid by Joe's Gym in order to use that software. Yeah. So I use it in order to be able to make sure that my events are within the schedule. I use it in order to make sure that people are getting billed correctly. And basically, as long as my system gets from point A to point B without crashing, pretty much that's a success.
One of the great things we talked about for success that came up in the roundtable meeting was there's a bridge between implementing the tech. And that implementation process really depends on the human capital. It depends on the mindset of the ownership. It depends on a lot of different factors. What have you seen that's worked in implementing a new tech system like Virtuagym that from a mindset standpoint was really beneficial to the staff and the owners?
I like that question because that actually comes from a place where we struggled at first. And so I thought, as well as, many facilities have this idea about technology, that it's something that you can literally buy off the shelf and it's set. It runs itself. But that's not the case. Business within the fitness space isn't changing. It's literally all about the people. And so that means that the secret sauce of an organization and what they've done in order to get successful to the point where they're at, they just need to look at how technology can be used within those places. And then once you do that and you start being able to make digital impressions in order to take that personal touch even further, then that's when you start seeing some real success. But that comes with, really making sure that you do a couple things beforehand. Number one, as a gym, making sure that you map out your member journey and specifically pick out the pieces that make you special in comparison to the gym across the street.
What would be a good example of something that would make a club special?
So I think that one big thing is going to be personal training. That's a big differentiating factor with a lot of the facilities that we're working with. And so they have their own unique take on how they deliver personal training. And so, basically looking at that experience, finding out how your personal trainers and your sales staff and how your lead flow into those channels works. And then basically figuring out, okay, now that I'm looking at a system like Virtuagym, how can I use Virtuagym in that journey? And so, one of the things that we like to advocate is that, now that you have this beautiful, shiny app where your members can use it in order to track their exercises, either assigned by themselves or their personal trainer gave them, letting that be known like in the upfront, make it part of your member journey.
From that first touch point all the way through to the end.
So if you're showing off the facility, obviously the equipment, is standing out there, and that's one of the things that people like to highlight. Show off the tech too. Walk them around, show them the app, walk up to this poster that has this QR code on it. Behind that QR code, when you scan it with your app, the workout of the day is behind there, and they can literally see these exercises and videos demonstrating them right away, rather than like having a tough barrier to that where they need to be able to engage with something, outside of what they already have in their pocket.
I like that you brought that up. 4,000 facilities and growing. You have conversations with clients, prospective clients. What is it that the average club is having difficulty with when we look at adoption of tech? We already talked about that bridge between knowing and doing, but the actual application process of the mindset piece, going back to that again, what is that mindset when you go to a club and they're looking at Virtuagym and they're having a little bit of negativity possibly around what they've experienced in the past, right? Like almost like the imposter syndrome. Like it didn't work before, so it's not going to work now. We've heard that a lot from different club owners. What do you think breaks through that mindset when they're looking at this new tech system?
Yeah, I think what it ends up coming down to is about creating an ecosystem. Whatever it is that you choose as your technology strategy, you make sure that it's part of who you are as an organization, part of your DNA. And so as long as you have that within the way that you're approaching technology, and it's part of the processes that are being managed on a day-to-day basis, that's what's going to ultimately push it. It comes down to the people at the end of the day, like I was saying earlier, where if you have a personal trainer who's not incentivized in order to use the technology, it's not going to be successful within his department. The big thing that we see, to get directly at your question in terms of what's the struggle, it's change management. That's really what it comes down to. And so what we did is, in order to be able to address that more directly with our clients, is we now have this 3-phased implementation plan. because we now know that it's all about being able to give our clients great service and making sure that we can hold their hand so that they're successful. Not all gyms have project management teams where they're going to be able to use our system and just make it work in their processes. So we're going to help with that. We'll help them implement it, brand it, map out their processes, and show them how exactly this is going to work side by side with that.
There's a balance between what the gym wants from the business and an operational standpoint. One of the things in some pre-show notes that you mentioned was Gary Vaynerchuk's keynote at the 2014 IHRSA.
Oh, yeah.
Why did you put that in there?
He wrote a book called Jab, 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 Right Hook.
It's a great book.
Yeah, and basically, for anybody who hasn't read it, it's saying that businesses are basically going for the right hook too much of the time, which represents the sale. And it's about setting it up. Those jabs represent instances where you can get members in order to resonate on an emotional level with your brand, reeling them in closer as brand loyalists and making them primed and ready before you throw that hook asking for the sale. And then he quotes, that there is no sale without the story, no knockout without the setup. And that's what it ends up coming down to, with our digital experience for gyms as well, is making sure that you take into consideration all of the things that the member is going to want from you as an organization, and then finding the place in order to put those commercial aspects in there.
And there's a map too, because you mentioned that about 10 minutes ago, where there is a journey and that story has the beginning point. So in the journeys that you see, what does that common journey look like? Walk us through that member journey from the time they come into the door to the time they break their first sweat on the floor.
Yeah, great question. When a member gets into the system as a lead, they're not the same. So number one, if they're finding you online versus they're walking into facility, they're along a different buying journey. And so being able to go ahead and map that piece out.
What's technology look like from a member integration standpoint, that first couple days of orientation? What does that look like from Virtuagym? How do they engage in that augmentation process in the very beginning?
Yeah, and so, when they first come into the facility, showing them some of these things within the app. So you're walking them around the facility, showing them things that maybe they don't understand. There's exercises out there called butt kick jumps. I mean, that just doesn't even resonate with some people. I mean, they understand what a jumping jack is.
Yeah.
But being able to seriously just take out this app, show them an animation of what that exercise looks like, they can track it in the system and then see what their caloric burn is with that, and see the history with that along the way. So now you can see that, if they're approaching something like weight loss, someone can lose 3 pounds and they may not see it on the scale, but if they're tracking their progress through a system as well and see that they're 30% to their 10-pound weight loss goal, that really speaks a lot, showing them that, yeah, you're getting there, and we're helping you keep you motivated along the way.
You mentioned that every impression can include tech, build or license. Do you think that that's a decision that's made from a team, or is that really the top stakeholder that says, you know what, we're either going to build it ourselves or we're going to license it out? What does that look like?
I would say that it's typically made at the top, being an organization where we basically give a subscription to innovation. That's our model. Pay a monthly due into Virtuagym, and what that gets you is us being the one who's doing the hard work of evaluating the landscape, taking a survey of all the different options that you have out there from a technology standpoint, and being able to make those tough choices of navigating technology on behalf of the facility. As a gym, you already have so much in order to manage on a day-to-day basis, without looking at technology. And so buying, oftentimes, organizations will think, I can do this. And I've seen some really great apps and great systems out there that have been built in-house. But at the end of the day, if you don't have the resources in order to be able to do that, so price becomes a big component to it, then a system like Virtuagym, where you can just pay a couple $100 a month in order to be able to have a system that all of your members can have access to, becomes a really nice option. Because as you guys know, and we know as well, technology isn't about being able to solve that problem today. It's a long-term investment, and being able to keep up with the Joneses on this and making sure that your system is going to be top-notch, not just today, but tomorrow, the next year, and ongoing. Where
can people learn more about Virtuagym and what you're up to for 2017? We actually talked with Geoffrey Little a little bit about the thing that's going on at Fibo. You're going to be debuting a new piece of the software, and it's something around tracking, right? Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things that we have related to tracking. And so one thing that we're betaing right now with a couple of clients that we work with, and it's a coaching app. And so one thing that I really like about it is that traditionally Virtuagym has done a really great job of making sure that the app that's branded to the gym has everything that the member is going to want. So it's a really rich and vibrant experience for them. But now we've built an app for the coaches to be able to use on the fly. We've been getting so much feedback saying that our personal trainers are on the go as well, and they're walking around and they need to be able to make sure that they're in contact with their clients, when they're on the hours, right there on the spot. And so, we have a coaching app, which is essentially allows a personal trainer to see all of their clients in one simple overview. They can highlight a client really quickly, and you can see, here's the training plan that you have them on, here's the progression through that plan. And if you'd like, you can go ahead and add a quick edit to their training plan, add a brand new one, give them a new split to their macronutrient overview on what kind of foods they should be consuming, and be able to do that all within a branded app as well, where they can go ahead and do that on the fly.
I think a lot of companies are interested in taking the in-club data, combining it with the outside club data. Do you feel like the next 2 years is going to be, how do we take this data and make it meaningful? How is Virtuagym helping club owners make the data absolutely meaningful as parting guidance?
That's something that's really awesome because, in the session earlier that was being moderated by Brian, he was talking about information of technology and connected devices and that. And I think that the one thing that we can't ignore within that is, how do you serve all this information up? How do you serve that data up? So the digital self is so important within this entire journey. And what that means is that if you're looking at this from a member standpoint, all this information that's just being dumped into these systems, how are you going to serve that back to the member as something that they can actually do something with? And so those dashboards and that become so important to them as an individual. But now if we want to go ahead and back out a little bit and talk about this from a facility standpoint or an operator standpoint, it becomes, how do you look at this on an aggregate level? We've brought on new member of the team about a year ago now. His name is Sam Williams, and he's really taking a look at this with his team, because we've been working with a lot of corporations now who are using the system for their wellness programs. And we have all of this information sitting there. And so what we're going to be building out over his time with the company is, we're building out a way where you can go ahead and look at this on an aggregate level, so that this way you can make insights like this. Imagine being able to go ahead and say that this education class around nutrition, everybody who's attended that class in aggregate, after they took that class, we've seen that there's been a 20% reduction within their calorie consumption.
And that's what healthcare companies and insurance companies can get as well.
Yeah.
So this is really powerful. You can learn more at virtuagym.com. Kaylin, thanks for coming on the show.
Hey, thank you so much. It was really great to chat.
Kaylin Pino believes that to find balance between what the gym wants from a business and operational standpoint and what the member wants in function and service essentially starts with smart surveys, not just immediate technology. Part of a new member orientation that most clubs are used to is walking around the member to show off the equipment and services on the fitness floor. But Kaylin reminds us to also show off the technology and demonstrate how from the minute a member walks in the club door, to identify the ethos of a progressive thinking facility around the use of mobile technology to both increase member satisfaction and for long-term retention. No matter what software solution you're tying into club operations, having mobile technology for customers to pay membership dues and purchasing services, like personal training and childcare, are just the start. What separates the great clubs from the good are software systems that truly work with one another. As referenced from Gary Vaynerchuk's keynote at the 2014 IHRSA show, we need to create a story and an experience to draw the member in, build trust, and then make the sale. Because there is no sale without the story, and no knockout without the setup. Implementing the jab, 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 right hook model with the use of technology is sure to benefit the club and the customer for the long term. Geoffrey Little reminds us that golden opportunities are still out there, with more to come when we look at the growing space of boutiques, studios, and specifically sports performance and youth market styled facilities. With millions of parents across the country and even more globally, the opportunities that exist for new delivery models in fitness are coming. Geoffrey believes this is based on what the data shows about spending habits from health-minded and caring parents who are seeking both youth sports and athletic training experiences for their children and adolescents. Beyond yoga, cycling, and group fitness classes, where the parents get a dynamic experience enhanced through technology, that same construct can and will apply to the facilities in the future that serve both families as well as individuals. Thank you for listening to the Fitness Plus Technology Podcast. Here's a quick message from Brian O'Rourke.
Hey, Josh, thanks so much for doing this great podcast. Friends, if you're enjoying this podcast, you're really going to enjoy following at Fit Tech Council. Follow me at Brian K. O'Rourke. And you'd really, really do us a big favor if you could go on iTunes or wherever you're listening to this and give us a 5-star. If you're enjoying it, please give us a 5-star, and please share this podcast. Help spread the word about technology and the great opportunities it is creating for our industry space. Thanks so much for listening.